Hi, my name is Manjin Kim, and this is another video about gender. This is one that basically I was on my way to work the other day and I started thinking about stuff, and this is a result of those ideas. I want to talk about a common criticism aimed at transgender people of all stripes, whether they're the kind of transgender person who needs or wants to change their sex, or just the kind of transgender person who just likes dressing as the other sex, or the kind of transgender person who doesn't even identify as a man or a woman, but falls outside of the gender binary. A common criticism levelled at people who talk about gender uh, is that the whole concept of that your mind or your personality could be gendered, could be a man's mind or a woman's mind, is in itself quite sexist and is based on gender stereotypes. So I wanted to look at this whole thing of personality as it relates to gender. And of course I want to start by saying it's true that your personality does not make you a man or a woman. That men and women have various types of personality, various types of temperament. When talking about matters pertaining to identity, it's hard not to get sucked into this whole notion of an inner gender or a mental gender, or that your character or personality in some way defines your gender. And I would agree that is, on the face of it, quite sexist and quite based on stereotypes of what men and women are like. And I've done some hard thinking about this, trying to reconcile basically my tendency to agree with that point of view, and yet my acknowledgement of the very real issues facing those who have a gender identity that differs from that gender that's on their birth certificate, for example. So I wanted to unpack this connection and difference between personality and gender a bit more. Let's look at the different ways in which someone may have gender variance, if you like. One way, which is basically the only way that affects cross-dressers, but which does also obviously manifest with regards to other gender variant people, is that of dress and appearance. The interesting thing about the criticism of the idea that personality can be gendered is that I always wonder why this acknowledgement by many people that men and women's personality and character can vary so much doesn't then carry through to what we expect of the way people dress and appear. Because it seems to me very clear that choice and inclination and taste with regards to appearance is very strongly connected with personality. When we dress authentically as we want to dress, rather than how other people expect us to dress, we are expressing and reflecting aspects of our personality in our clothing. Strange then that we should still insist that the way people dress and appear, that there is a way to dress as a woman or as a man. And with regards to my own liking of various feminine attire, which I'm finding joyous and liberating the more I discover just how I can form my own style within that, which, by the way, tends to be a bit androgynous even when I'm feminising my appearance. I tend to be jeans and t-shirt. I don't wear dresses or tights or skirts, but I wonder why I get so much joy out of some of the feminine attire that I do. And I figured it does actually relate to aspects of my personality. Soft fabrics that many women's clothes seem to have suit my soft, gentle personality better than the coarse fabrics of men, which suit perhaps a more rugged personality type. Playing jangly jewellery things, around my neck or around my arms, colours on face makeup or on nails. I reckon that these things appeal to someone of an artistic, creative kind of thing, because they're sensory. I mean, the jangliness of the jewellery and the shininess of the jewellery, the shininess of nail varnish, the playing with different colours, these all appeal to a certain aesthetic personality type, a certain artistically inclined, creatively inclined personality type. So again, it's fun to play with these things. and there are many sensory pleasures involved in that. And it's not as if male clothing doesn't sometimes appeal to aspects of my personality, like the whole heavy metal thing with the leather and the denim. So there's something there as well. And like I said, I'm androgynous, so it's a mixture of things I go for. But personality is expressed in the clothing and styles we adopt. And so why, when we accept that men and women can be of various different types of personality types, do we still have this rigid idea about what men's and women's clothes are? I don't understand it. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. With regards to identity, with regards to the need that some people, gender variant people, feel to change their name, to be referred to by certain pronouns rather than others, to think of themselves and talk about themselves as being a woman or a man or whatever, or maybe not a woman or a man but something else. This actually, I was thinking about this, has nothing to do with personality. It's not you're saying, oh, my personality is this way, therefore I need to start calling myself a woman, or need to start saying that I'm not a woman or a man. It's not about that. It's about the fact that when people perceive you to be a particular gender, then there's a certain way in which they interact with you, and a certain role they expect from you. You're treated differently because you're perceived to be that gender. Men are treated differently to women, and this can be upsetting and uncomfortable for people, and that's what that's to do with. And I know to some extent it's never going to be different. You know, people are always going to see me perhaps and say that's a guy, even if I was fully dressed up female, particularly if I don't ever plan to take hormones or get surgery done, which I don't in either case. But even if I did, maybe even then they would still see it this is a transsexual. The person used to be a man. Maybe to some extent there'll always be a little bit of that, and there's no escaping from it. And certainly if I insist on being androgynous in my style, and if I don't feel any need to take hormones or surgery or get surgery, then I'm always going to be perceived as a man to some people. However much I say I'm not a man or a woman, there are always going to be people that are going to see me as a man, and I've got to deal with that. But you know what? In the midst of all that, I don't like to be seen as a man or treated like a man thing. Whether that takes the thing of I would rather be seen as and treated like a woman. Obviously this goes the other way around as well for those who are born women and want to be seen as men. But yeah, whether you want to be seen as a woman or a man or as something else entirely, and it differs from what people do see you as or what people do perceive you as, then even then the mere act of saying, but I identify this way, and I would like to be officially recognised as that gender, that can make a lot of difference to a person and how comfortable they feel. And it's got nothing to do with personality, it's got everything to do with the way that people perceive them and interact with them. And if, indeed, personality can vary enormously within women or men, then there's no need, really, to treat people so differently just because they happen to be male or female. So it makes a lot of sense. And that's the thing, you see, this is all about choice. If personality is not defined by what your physical sex is, then you have the right to express that personality in clothing however you wish. And if you feel uncomfortable being treated differently because of what physical sex you are, then it makes sense that you should feel unhappy about that, because your personality is not defined by that. There's no reason why people should treat you differently or interact with you differently. So if it makes you feel more comfortable, because lovely as it is to say, oh, this is sexist and you can be however you want, whether you're a man or a woman, we're not actually in that place yet. We're in the world as it exists now, and people do treat you differently according to whether they perceive you as a man or a woman. And so if it makes you feel more comfortable to identify the other way, or even to identify outside of that space, to say, look, I do not want to be treated like a guy or like a girl, because I'm just a person, I'm me, then that's the right of the individual. It's about choice. And of course, for some people, and that's what makes someone a transsexual rather than a cross-dresser or an androgynous person, those who are transsexual, of course, they even feel that their body, in order to feel comfortable in their own skin, that they need to take hormones or do surgery. And that, again, is a right and it's choice. It's your body. If you wish to alter your body, with, of course, the medical understanding of the risks involved and everything, you know, with, of course, consulting with medical people, because, of course, it's a big step. But if you wish to alter your body, and you have the medical backing to do so, then that's the choice of an individual. It's your body. I mean, maybe we frame it wrong by talking about an inner gender or a mental gender, or implying that it's anything to do with personality, really. But perhaps that's the wrong way to frame it. But the funny thing about this criticism that actually this transgender thing is somehow sexist, is that it is actually sexist ulterior motive masquerading as a progressive viewpoint. Because always the argument goes, that's sexist to say that men are this way or that women that, or that you can somehow tell from your nature or personality whether you're a man or a woman or something else. It always leads to, so you should just identify as what your physical body is. Maybe a gender non-conforming, but otherwise very typical man or woman, depending. Well, that's not a progressive viewpoint. It's not a trans-friendly viewpoint. It's pretending to be progressive, but it's actually trying to shoehorn you into your gender anyway. The funny thing about this criticism as well is it supports androgyny. If what you're saying is true, I mean, if physical is the only truth, then we already have words for that difference. We could say male or female. Whether you're physically male or physically female, it is important, I suppose, in terms of reproduction or medical reasons, perhaps, to say that someone is physically male or physically female. But that's about it. It doesn't define the person at all. That's what you're telling me, aren't you? When you're saying it's sexist to say that your nature could be male or female, your inner nature, your mental nature, whatever, could be male or female. When you're saying it's sexist to say that, what you're really saying then is that the physical does not define any aspect of the person at all. So what their physical sex is does not define any other aspect of them at all. So why even refer to people as men or women with all the baggage that contains? Why not just say they're male or female, but other than that? In a way, androgyny makes sense, because you're saying, just because I happen to be physically male, why should I have male pronouns? Why not female ones? Why not neutral ones? Why should I have to dress this way? Why not dress the other way? Why not dress in a mixture of ways? I'm an individual human being, and my nature is not defined by my physical sex. It actually supports my androgyny. And so, when people say this thing to me specifically with my androgynous gender identity, I tend to want to turn around and say, if you really feel that way, then why are you not challenging your gender? Why are you not turning around and going, so why am I doing this gender at all? Why not throw gender away and just be androgynous? But of course I recognise that it's choice. So people can be male if they want, female if they want, or androgynous if they want, and it's not governed by their body. And no, it's not sexist to think that way. Personality varies. That's exactly why people should be free to dress how they want, identify how they want, and do with their body what they want. Because you're not defined or limited by what your physical body is. And you should not be defined and limited by how other people perceive you and interact with you. And you certainly shouldn't have to limit what you're allowed to wear. This is not an anti-trans argument. It actually supports transgender.